How we doing, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here. It's May 11th, 2025, and we have so much to get into on the New York Metropolitan prospect front. Because in case you guys are new, thank you guys so much for joining the platform here as we cover the Mets every single day here on WardyNYM, and we'll continue to do so throughout the course of the 162. We also cover pretty much daily everything that transpires in the farm from Port St. Lucie all the way up there to AAA Syracuse. And folks, do we have some exciting news to get into, having everything to do with Mets right-hander Jonah Tong, as he was nothing short of dominant and unhittable for the Roma Ponies this past night in their doubleheader. We're also going to talk about Ronnie Mauricio. How is Mauricio faring there for the Roma Ponies as he continues his rehab stint, ultimately working his way up eventually to Syracuse and then hopefully this Mets team at some point as soon as potentially this season. And speaking of the Roma Ponies, we're going to stay on that topic by getting into other key bats like Jett Williams, Mets top offensive prospect. How is he looking right now so far this season? That and so much more on the prospect end is what we're about to get into. So thank you guys kindly for smashing the like and subscribe button as your first chime in. And let me know in the comments down below, out of the current prospects available in the farm, name me one pitcher and one infielder or outfielder that you really like and you hope to see blossom here in the organization going forward. Thank you guys so much for doing exactly that. And also thank you guys for hearing from our amazing sponsor today at SeatGeek, because SeatGeek will have you covered for all of your ticketing needs, folks. And I am currently attending today's series finale between the Mets and the Cubs, 12 p.m. Eastern. Depending on when you guys saw this, you might have already seen the game transpire. Hopefully the boys won. If not, it is what it is. And I'm going to be live later on today there from Citi Field. And this is all thanks to my great friends at SeatGeek that have you covered again for all of your ticketing needs. Not just for Mets tickets, for concert show tickets, comedy show tickets, you name it, SeatGeek has you covered. And what has really separated from them, in my opinion, from the rest over the past couple years, and that's exactly why I've been utilizing them for years on end before they even became an official channel sponsor here, where they're the official sponsor for all things tickets on the platform all season long here in WardyNYM. Folks, as you guys can see right here, it is their grading scale for their tickets. You go in the SeatGeek app, you look for your favorite Mets tickets, and you'll get a scale 1 through 10 on the grade, as well as a color coordination scale from red to green. If it's in the 1 through 5 category and in the red, it's not a good bang for your buck. You're going to be overspending for what you're really getting, and you're better off allocating those dollars elsewhere. They're still in the SeatGeek app. But if you get tickets that are, say, north of the 7 to 10 range with green, then you know you're getting a great bang for your buck. You should probably hammer those tickets should you have interest. And again, SeatGeek has you covered with all the variety on the ticketing front. They currently have over 70,000 active events to choose from, making them the #1 rated ticketing app in the game today. So folks, if you want to save some dollars on your next Mets ticket purchase especially, please feel free to utilize our promo code link down below, that being at YesWardy10. That way you get 10% off your next ticket purchase, whether it's for Mets tickets, comedy show tickets, concert show tickets, whatever you need in the ticketing space, SeatGeek has you covered. And shout out to them once more for being an amazing sponsor here on the platform. But let's get right into this, folks, and let's start today's discussion with the reason as to maybe why you clicked on this video, because we have highlighted so many great pitching performances really just over the past week alone here on the platform. We saw Brandon Sproat go 5 strong innings or so there for Syracuse a couple nights ago. We saw Noah McLean and his Syracuse Mets debut that we broke down a video a day ago in our previous Big Mets Updates segment, so please check it out. McLean going 7 shutty in his Syracuse Mets debut. Felipe De La Cruz just over a week ago or so makes his Syracuse debut there as initially an outside of top 30 prospect, skyrocketing the farm, flamethrowing southpaw, and he goes right around 7 shutty, if not 6 shutty. So a lot of dominant pitching performances we've seen in the farm, specifically in Syracuse, but it's about time that we have something exciting to further break down here for AA and the Roma Ponies, and that has everything to do with, yes, Jonah Tong. Look at this, everybody. You want to talk about an absolutely dazzling start, talk about an unhittable start, talk about going 6.2 shutty, just 1 out shy of having a full absolute unhittable game there in the doubleheader for the Roma Ponies. And on the doubleheaders, they were only going 7 innings, which is why Tong went at max 6.2. I think it was an absolute shame that Tong did not get a chance to get the final out in this ball game when he was pitching a no-no the entire time. 13 strikeouts and now down to a 2.57 ERA on the season. This guy was absolutely unhittable. He was disgustingly good, and I really am bothered to a degree that they brought in Shook, the reliever, to get the final out, but it worked, and obviously they did it for a reason, because, you know, 99 pitches is not something that you want to push too hard for a young, very exciting right-hander in the organization that obviously could be susceptible to injury as someone who isn't as maybe accustomed to the workload sometimes. But Tong, I've seen him get up to 100 plus pitches before. So regardless of whatever the reason was, he was dominant when he was out there for this Rumble Pony team. And Jonah Tong, in case you guys don't know the story with Jonah, he skyrocketed in the farm last year, similar to Brandon Sproat, just not to the same magnitude. Sproat was the biggest name in the farm last year that everyone glued to. Initially, it was Christian Scott in the beginning of the season. Then Scott made the bigs, was up and down for a bit, just couldn't stop giving up the home run ball. And then obviously he went down with reconstructive Tommy John surgery that same season. Brandon Sproat, Noah McLean, Jonah Tong, what do they all have in common? They all skyrocketed from pretty much either St. Lucie or Brooklyn ball this past year to get all the way up to either Syracuse or, in the case of Jonah Tong, who will not be there much longer. That's an obvious one there with the Rumble Ponies. Feels like it's just a matter of obviously when, not if, Jonah Tong gets moved up there to Syracuse, and then he can pair with, even though it probably won't be for a long period of time, he'll have the privilege of them pairing with guys in both Sproat and McLean, and then you have a true three-headed monster of a rotation there in Syracuse. That would be so good that you would want to go out of your way to attend Syracuse Mets games, right? Because that is how exciting the pitching prospects are. And expand a little bit more on Jonah Tong and what works so well for him in this outing. Let's not forget that he has one of the better fastballs in all the minor leagues, not just for the Mets, but in all of minor league baseball. And it's not just the velocity, because he sits right around mid-90s on the gun. You know, he has similar velo on the hitter that you will see with guys like Christian Scott to an extent, where if he really needs to get to the back pocket and touch the upper echelon on the 90s, he can try to do that, but he's normally ranging, you know, the 92 to 94, 95, 96 range there for the here. But it's the great shape on his fastball, which is what stands out so much about Jonah Tong. Then you look at the remaining of the arsenal too. You have an absolutely disgustingly good curveball when it's right that has batters looking absolutely stupid. And his break, his drop, and his curveball is so exciting to me. It reminds me, honestly, to a certain degree of Seth Lugo, because when I think of great curveballs in Mets recent years, I think of Seth Lugo and his absurd RPMs there and one of his 10 pitches that he has in said arsenal. And I see Jonah Tong with the breaking ball, and I see the excitement, I see the intrigue, and I also see everything with, of course, his changeup, which I think has actually had some great movement upward this year, in the sense that he's continuing to grow and expand that arsenal. To have a changeup working as well as it's working for Jonah Tong so far as a Rumble Pony, when, mind you, a changeup is usually like the last pitch that a lot of starting pitching prospects usually try to hammer down. The fact that all of his pitches in the arsenal could pretty much play up at Major League Baseball level today, but it's more so about just not wanting to hurt his development. He's so young, Tong. If it wasn't obvious from how he looked, he's obviously in his early 20s here, and he's a guy that could do lethal, very exciting things for the Mets at the Major League level. He, Noah McLean, and Brandon Sproat all have ETAs pretty much as soon as the season. Tong is a little bit behind the totem pole from the others just because he isn't even in Syracuse yet. But one, as I said with Noah McLean, McLean got called up to got called up to the Syracuse Mets no longer than 3 days after I said in a previous breakdown of him that he will be called up very soon to Syracuse. I'm throwing that out there, and I'm saying the same exact thing here about Jonah Tong. And how can you not, after having such a dominant performance, helping propel the Rumble Ponies to a victory in their doubleheader? And we're going to expand more on those doubleheader numbers here in a minute when I give you my true nightly report from St. Lucie all the way up there to AAA Syracuse. But I would love to hear from you Mets fans in the comments down below. How intriguing and how exciting has Jonah Tong been for you as someone who cares about Mets prospects and ultimately the potential of him impacting this Mets rotation? Maybe not this season, but certainly next year. That feels like it's inevitably going to happen. And when you look at the talent the Mets have in their farm right now, this has a lot to do with why why David Stearns isn't going to be going out of his way to just throw a bag long term at just any starter. That's why when you look at the configuration of the Mets rotation right now, you have Kodai Senga, who obviously isn't going anywhere. You have David Pearson, who isn't immediately going anywhere. Then you have a bunch of question marks between the Griffin Cannings, the Tyler McGills, the Frankie Montoses, and the Sean Manayas. Both Manaya and Montas will be here after this season more than likely. But there will be openings, especially when I look at guys like Canning. Holmes isn't going anywhere, obviously, but Canning, McGill, there will be opportunities that present itself, especially if the Mets want to stay stubborn with a six-man rotation. So between one getting healthy and Christian Scott, because he'll be ready to go for next season, if not by the end of this season, Brandon Sproat, Noah McLean, that is 4 in-house starters right there that could all be having some effective innings for the Mets next season. And there's a great belief that at least one of those 4 starters will impact the Mets at the Major League level this season. So my question to you guys is let's kick Scott to the curb because he's still rehabbing. In Jonah Tong, Brandon Sproat, and Noah McLean, which one do you think will actually get the call first to the major league level this season? And secondly, which prospect out of three do you personally like the most and why? And you can lump Scott back into that discussion then when evaluating those four pitching prospects. Which one is most enticing you and why? I would love to hear it from all you guys in the comments, and thank you so much for doing exactly that. Now, folks, let's go from talking about Jonah Tong and what works so well for him. Let's now talk about more things that have worked well here for the Rumble Ponies this past day in their doubleheader, and it has so much to do with, yes, Ronnie Mauricio. Ronnie Mauricio, everybody, hype me up. Get me going, baby. Feels like yesterday, Ronnie Mauricio signed my hat at 2023 Mets spring training. That same year, he was hitting tanks galore left, right, and center all spring. Inevitably got called up by the Mets towards the end of that season and was effective right away in the lineup. Sadly, Mauricio, that ensuing offseason then had a big tear, and he hasn't been playing a whole lot of baseball since. But now that Ronnie had his reps there in the complex league, Port St. Lucie for a week plus, now is with the Rumble Ponies, and for the Rumble Ponies, right away, he's making an impact. A 1-for-3 game, and one of the two games that happened in the doubleheader because he didn't participate in the other one. RBI double and a 333 average is what Ronnie Mauricio has to kickstart his rehab stint there with the Rumble Ponies. And just look at that, guys. That was a fastball up. That looked like it was about at the shoulders. Ronnie just pulls that so easily there. The power is absurd with Ronnie Mauricio, and we all know this. And if you don't know this, this is because you didn't watch Ronnie in 2023. Maybe you're a newer Mets fan, or maybe you just weren't paying attention, and that's okay, because a lot of things went wrong in 2023. But one of the good things, one of the positives, was guys like Ronnie Mauricio absolutely stepping up when first called upon for this Mets team. And I think it was all the more impressive that we saw Ronnie Mauricio go out and show out the way that he did in this matchup, especially when you look at the fact that, again, he missed, a year plus, of any type of organized ball. So for him to come back after a serious tear, and then he even had a setback that led to an additional surgery just this past offseason or so, or a little bit before this past offseason. Ronnie Mauricio is finally back. He looks locked in, and he is a guy that a lot of Mets fans are bullish on, saying, Wardy, this is a guy I really think is going to be on this team this year. I love his fit as a potential DH power fit. I love his fit in the infield. The Mets have an abundance of riches with infield prospects between himself, between obviously the current guys on the roster, and Brett Beatty, who just can't stop hitting home runs that we broke down in last night's postgame show at the time of this video being recorded, as well as Luis Angel Acuna, obviously, Mr. Electric, the lightning bolt himself. And then, of course, you have not only Ronnie Mauricio, but you have other infield prospects for the Mets to choose from. And before we talk about the other glaringly obvious one, I do have a big question for everyone watching this again in the comments down below. Please answer. Do you think Ronnie Mauricio will find himself back at the big league level this season? Because this is something that a lot of people have pondered. And while I don't see an immediate route for Ronnie to get there, because again, there's no reason for him to be rushed whatsoever. And secondly, we need to see him get consistent, get on a groove, and figure out what the Mets have in mind, if at all, defensively for him too. Because this is a guy that can play short, play second, play third. But what is most comfortable for him, and what makes most sense at the major league level? It feels like to me, and it's similar to how Beatty got the call again, it feels like when Ronnie does eventually get called up to the Mets, if it is in fact this season, it'll come in the fashion of obviously injuries happening, inconsistencies, something along those lines that kind of opens the door and paves the way for Ronnie Mauricio to be given an opportunity similar to how he was given said keys in 2023 after obviously the Mets' season was done. Trade deadline had passed. Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, the grizzled vets are out of here. Luis Angel Acuna, Drew Gilbert, and Ryan Clifford are in, which we all love, obviously, because they have all been productive to their varying degrees in the minor leagues. But Ronnie Mauricio, guys, get excited, because this is a huge step in the right direction. This in itself is massive news. To just see him already going out there and being productive. And look at this other angle, Ronnie Mauricio, too, with the bats and ball skills. You got to love it. Look at that sweet swing. I miss this so much. Just look at the leg kick, too. We're going to break it down together. So let's see here. All right, so he's got that little front step, little Tony tap right there. Nice little leg kick. Love that. Here we go. He's getting set. And look at where that ball is. Look at this freeze frame, guys. This ball is absurd. Like, it is, what is that ball at? That's above his shoulders right there. And he casually rips that for an RBI double in the gap to right. Like, So good. And you just see how tall, lanky he is. When I met him in person, they had him labeled at like 6'4", but he felt like he was closer to 6'6" in those cleats. And on top of it, he's really filled out too. Like when Ronnie was initially an IFA prospect for the Mets, he was very scrawny. And there were concerns of the fact that he was just such a big body, but had a lot of filling in to do. Well, he's filled it out a lot the past couple years. And not only does he have potential to be a true power threat from the left side, but if he does continue his career as a true switch hitting option, then that's something that could, again, blossom into something hopefully great at the major league level down the line. But Mets fans, continue to let me know all your thoughts here on Ronnie Mauricio. Let's go from talking about Ronnie Mauricio to talking about another guy that has really performed well, not just this past night in the minor leagues, but in general. He has just had a quietly, unbelievably good season in the minor leagues for the Rumble Ponies as well, folks. Yes, let's get into it. Let's talk about Mr. Jett the Met Williams. Because everybody, if you guys have not seen what's going on with Jett, let me enlighten you just for a second here. Let me pull it up just right here. There we go. Jett Williams had himself a day, baby. Jett Williams had himself a double that we saw there. Opposite field double. Poking that one. Another short cane, just like Luis Angel Acuna as an infield prospect, who is a speed demon, who goes gap to gap, who steals bags, and who constantly make things happen. As you guys see down below, Jett Williams in 25 games with the Rumble Ponies so far this season has 12 extra base hits that consists of 2 home runs, 2 triples, and all the rest were doubles. 11 RBIs, 7 stolen bags, a 283 average, and an 837 OPS. I mean, that is really, really good for Jett Williams, who missed the chunk of last season that we saw, unfortunately, due to injury, similar to Drew Gilbert there. And he, like Drew Gilbert, are trying to get ramped up and trying to impact this Mets team as soon as possible. Now, unfortunately for Jett, there's like no immediate route to make that happen, because even with him getting reps at both shortstop and center field this year, center field, I think we could all agree Drew Gilbert is the leading candidate between the two of the Mets' actual prospects to be considered for such a role. But Jett Williams isn't too far behind. And not only will Jett be with the Syracuse Mets before the season ends, obviously, I wouldn't be shocked if he's called up there and moved up within the next month and a half. I think that's very realistic for Williams. Once that happens too, should he get further acclimated and comfortable, then that'll be the final step for him before he hits the major league level. We are in a great position as Mets fans, because not only is our offensive core group fantastic with the on-field product, but the farm and its core is also right at the cusp of all being either fringe MLB players, on the cusp of being an MLB player, and Jett Williams, Drew Gilbert, Ronnie Mauricio, a bunch of the pitchers that we just alluded to the past number of minutes. The list goes on and on. So, guys, I would love to hear again when we talk about these infield prospects, but especially if you want to put Ronnie Mauricio in the prospect category still, just because he's had such a limited sample size at the major leagues. Between Ronnie Mauricio, Jett Williams, Ryan Clifford, and if you want to throw one other batter in there that is notable to you, that's fine. Which one is most enticing to you and why? Let's hear in the comments down below, guys. And again, thank you so much for doing exactly that. Jett the Met Williams, baby. Hopefully he can have himself a continued run here for the Rumble Ponies, and then it won't be long eventually before he's finding himself with this big league club trying to do great things as our top infield/outfield. I'm going to just say top offensive prospect in general, because he's playing all over the place. So now, guys, before we get out of here, let me leave you with the following, because we do have a little bit more on the prospect report, specifically on what's transpired this past night in their respective games. And let's start here with the St. Lucie Mets, as they lost their matchup 10-5 against the Threshers. And the offensive standout in this one were Collins, that we saw there at DH, ripping his first home run of the season. We saw Colin Houck go one for 2. Pardon me, not Colin Houck, I apologize. Even though he did go 1 for 2, I was just reading LeBron's stat line. Houck at third base, 1 for 2 with 2 runs scored, 3 walks, 224 average, 750 OPS. Love that for Houck, as he's slowly but surely climbing his way up now, which is great to see there for the former first-round pick. Nothing else too notable offensively in said matchup outside of Snyder, who went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs. We saw pitching-wise, there's a bullpen game, so we'll get on to the next. And the next will be the Brooklyn Cyclones, as they took down the Taurus by a final score of 6-1. And the offensive standouts in this matchup were Eli Serrano ripping his 8th double of the season, Jacob Reimer having not 1 but 2 doubles. Reimer is going to get moved up to the Rumble Ponies soon. This kid has been tearing the cover off the ball, playing third, first, DH, all over the infield. He had 3 home runs a week ago. 2 for 4, 2 RBIs, 336 average, over 1,000 OPS. He's looked unbelievably good. Carson Bench looks great. First round pick last year, 1 for 4 with a run scored, 297 average, 868 OPS. Another guy that I don't think will be too long before he gets moved up to the Rumble Pony level. They just got to find room for him. Jesus Baez, 1 for 4 with a run score, which I like. Baez hits the ball so hard, just over the Mendoza line finally. And Monsquera, they're in left field, batting ninth, 1 for 4 with an RBI. And that's pretty much all she wrote. So pitching-wise, we had Mr. Noah Hall, who the Mets drafted back in 2023, I believe in the 7th round or so. Really exciting pitching prospect, too, as a 1.83 ERA after going 5.2 innings of 1 earned run ball for 4 walks, 2 strikeouts. So that's to work on the walks there, but again, positives for sure. Now, let's get on the Rumble Pony doubleheader because they won one game 6-0. That was headlined by Jett Williams having himself a double and 2 RBIs in the process. We've also seen other standouts there, including Ryan Clifford have himself a day. 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs there at DH. Nick Morabito, 1 for 3 with an RBI. Love me some Nick Morabito. Mets minor league player of the year last year offensively. And that's all she wrote offensively. Ton did his thing. Shook did his thing on the pitching end. So getting on to the other game, where it was a 7-5 Rumble Pony loss against the Fighting Phils of Reading. Mauricio had the RBI double in this matchup. Ryan Clifford won 1 for 3 in this one. Lugo, who played second and third base, batting .320 with around 800 OPS, had an RBI too, which was nice. Kevin Parada had his 3rd double this season. That's good for Parada, who's batting a .139. Horrendous start so far this year. No sugarcoating at all. Pintaro got absolutely rocked, unfortunately, won 1.2 innings and allowed 5 earned runs. Don't love to see that. Don't really love to see any of the pitching performances here. So let's just skip ahead. Head to the Syracuse Mets as they won 9-2 against the Jumbo Shrimp in this matchup. And the notables, Joey Meneses ripped his 16th double this season. Nationals legend, if you know, you know. Donovan Walton hit his 5th home run of the year, and Jared Young hit his 3rd home run of the year. 2 guys that obviously are fringe MLB players that the Mets signed this past offseason that could be given an opportunity given injuries or inconsistencies. Young, 2 for 5 with 3 RBIs, 2 runs scored, 250 average, 942 OPS. John Singleton with an RBI, 232 average, 844 OPS. Drew Gilbert went 0 for, but a night ago prior to that, Drew Gilbert did hit a home run. He's at 231 average, 727 OPS in center. Meneses, 250 average, 709 OPS. Donovan Walton, 3 RBIs, 248 average, 720 OPS. Hayden Senger, 1 for 3 with a run scored, 207 average, 480 OPS. Billy McKinney, 1 for 4 with an RBI. And pitching-wise, Blade Tidwell, 3.1 shutty with 1 hit, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. He threw 50 pitches in the 3.1 innings. Then they went to Austin Warren, who looked great in 1.2 scoreless innings. 2 hits, no walks, no earned runs, and a strikeout. Sean Reed Foley got rocked again. He continues to labor at the minor league level. 2 earned runs, 9 ERA so far this year. Tyler Zuber had a strong outing, scoreless inning work, and a strikeout because he's a dog. Shout out to you, Zuber, because I know you love to call every Met and their mother a dog on social media when they perform well. And Grant Hartwig went 2 shutting this one too. 4 strikeouts, now down to a 3.38 ERA for Syracuse. So, folks, that's going to do it for our latest prospect news segment here. A little bit different than our typical Big Mets update segment because I want to highlight specifically what's happening in the farm because that Jonah Tong start was so dominant. Ronnie Mauricio doing anything is exciting news, obviously. And Jett Williams looks like the guy who's been heralded as the Mets' top offensive prospect. So thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you all again, depending on when you're watching this, either later on today, potentially live from Citi Field, maybe doing a pre-recorded video, depending on the outcome. Not sure where I'm going to get things set up right now. I just know I'll be attending the game this Sunday there at Citi Field for Mother's Day. So I hope to see many amazing Mets fans there. And whenever you're watching this, again, thank you so much for consuming the content. Hit that like and subscribe on your way out. And as always, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out, everybody. Have a great one.